set audience. I have a lot of the like Vegas residency shows like Magic Murray, Tape Face, Biff the Dragon, who have collaborated with me because my fans see them and then they just, it's like, who is this guy who's on this show? Oh, he has a show at the Tropicana or at, Harrah's or the Link or, a different hotel. And it's great advertising. And same thing why the hotels and casinos love us, coming to all these places all over the place because it's great marketing, a lot of these casinos, especially like in Colorado locally, I've, put them on the map from where they used to be.
That's incredible. So who are the ideal people you would like to collaborate with that are watching this video so we can target them to get them to listen to what Scott's saying?
Yeah. So my audience is 35 to 55 years old, 60-70% male audience, 70% USA, and then my other 3 top countries is Australia, UK, and Canada. 99.9% English speaking. So that's my basically target demographic. So probably, an influencer who's like the ones that have been more successful for me. I've had Howie Mandel, Ice-T, stuff like that. Just like some of the local show people. Those are the ones who are going to, bring me who I think I have a better connection with their audience and my audience is, are relevant to each other.
So for brands, though, you mentioned, because this is kind of new for me to understand, that these gamblers, they're spending a lot of money. They have money. They're okay with spending money because they're already basically sinning and doing things like that. Tell me more about the psychology and how that appeals, how you appeal to them and how they think.
Yeah, so one is with the gamblers is these are people who have money. Like it's a very disposable income gambling. Obviously there's some people who have gambling issues and probably shouldn't gamble, but most gamblers have disposable income, and it's like you said, this is their fun and this is their entertainment. So it's but like for credit card companies, cash advances, debt, vacation, travel. These are all cruises,
impulse things.
Yeah, these are all prime targets, especially with my higher end audience. Like luxury brands. These are the people. If you're going to the casino, with 25, 50, 100,000, $1 million to gamble with, you have the ability to go buy that $3,000, Gucci shirt or different stuff to wear.
So how do people reach out to you, Scott?
So the best way is all my social media handles are The Big Jackpot. My website's thebigjackpot.com. All our social media handles is The Big Jackpot on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, X now, everywhere. Also, my email is scott@mediabreakaway.com. So if you want to reach out directly, but through any of the social channels, usually it gets routed to me somehow.
Or maybe through Brian or someone else.
We also have Brian in Denver, who also is on our show. And his email is Brian, BRIAN, @1WON.com. So, and we do, especially on the cruises. And people don't realize, and especially with the gamblers, we can put people on cruises for pretty much free. All they have to do is pay, their port fees and, some taxes. But, usually for under $200, I can put a gambler on a cruise boat.
That's
most of them will qualify pretty easily. So it's good opportunities for them.
So, Scott, are there any questions that you wish people had asked you?
Like now or back in the day?
Like now, right now that you're an influencer.
I don't know. Like I said, it's weird because I don't see myself as that influencer. I know I do now, but it's weird because, like I said, it's what's really weird about being an influencer, and like I said, I think I understand when I'm in the casinos and stuff, but it's really is we were in an airport in Germany on a layover, and people recognized me. We were in Mexico having breakfast at the hotel. I'm airports a lot. Taco Bell, Costco,
everywhere.
It's crazy. But then I have to sit back and I have to think about it. I'm like, how they all know me, and then the biggest thing is, I'm getting over 20 million views a month between all my social platforms. So it's a lot of eyeballs on me, especially like I said, these people are watching me for 18, 19 minutes at a time, on the long form videos. So it's intense, how big it's become. But I appreciate everybody who always is watching and leaves comments for me on my videos. I try, that's another thing I do, which a lot of social media people don't, is I try and reply back to everybody's comments.
He's the fastest replier I know on text messaging or WhatsApp.
No, I like I said, because if they took the time to leave me an intelligent comment, some leave something that makes no sense sometimes. But anyone who always leaves intelligent comments, I always try and write back to them, thank them. And like I said, because if it wasn't for them watching me, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, Scott is impressive. He's got a 30+ year career. I've known you for how long?
24 years, 25 years.
A long time, yeah. And he is still going. If you look up his Wikipedia, it says he's 52 years old, and we're going to help him with his knowledge panel. I'm not being paid to say this. I'm doing this just because I really admire Scott, and I invite you to go check him out.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Good.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dumb.
I'm proud of you. You know that. I hope you do.
So if you want to sit at the casino at home and play some authentic slots, I just saved your time. Download Cash Frenzy. This game probably has the best payout and bonuses of any slots game because it's so easy to win a jackpot in any slot you want of up to 10 trillion coins. If you get lucky, you can win at least a mini jackpot in a span. So enough is enough. I wanted to make this video. You know, this has been bothering me for some time now, and I mean, there's just so much drama in the slot community, and just all this the stress this has been putting on me. For the first time ever, with both of them, double trouble. Buddy Michael and Joe, how you guys doing? Joe's have a nickname? What are we gonna come up with for a nickname? Hey, should we up our bets? And coins get us free games. The more coins, the more free games at once. There we go. Alright, finally some buffalo head. And as you get more buffalo head, the symbols all go buffalo. So now all the eagles will turn into buffalo. Yeah, 4 a.m. $2 super chat. Raja, is Mr. Mike the first Armenian elf you have met? He is. He is the first one.
What is this going to be like?
Robot Baron. Wait a minute. Adrian?
So you particular objection? Aliens from the terrace in the form glued to the thickets where the soul withdrawn from every element gleams through the
It's really kind of ridiculous for you to say to me that I don't like. And he replied to it.
what's that?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut Adrian off though because
Oh shit.
What news? Who is doing this? Is this Fox or who? Like, what news are you listening to?
No, this is a Trump ad that I'm setting right now.
I mean,
This
that's
is Trump ad.
obvious. Okay.
Yeah, but I said that was not a surprise. But the reason why I'm watching it again is because I haven't watched it but like one time, so I don't remember exactly what it claimed. So that was September 11th on ABC News. Okay, wow. So they actually cited some news articles. I didn't realize they did that. I didn't really watch this that closely. And then PBS, transgender operations on illegal aliens. Okay, hold on. I want to find these articles now. I didn't know there were such articles. Okay, PBS. That's true. Let's see if this. Fascinating. I wish I could just find the articles that they're pretending. Either they're pretending to cite them so they don't exist, or because they didn't have any like headlines.
Who are the organizations with the articles that you're looking at?
One was supposedly PBS. Another one was CNN. Another one was like ABC News. Let's see. ABC News. I found one. It said, "Look at Trump's transgender operations on aliens debate claim." So this is like a fact check. So the president debated Tuesday. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. Trump said this is radical, left, political, blah blah blah. The comment was the only mention of the LGBTQ community on the debate stage. Trump's comments appear to refer to a 2019 ACLU questionnaire. Okay, so they got a link to it.
Are you looking at like Snopes or something right now?
No, it was an ABC News fact check from the debate because ABC I think did the debate.
Right.
Okay, so here's the question. Okay, so that's fascinating. They have the questionnaire and everything. Yeah, I'm gonna link to that, and then they put that in the little ad as well. All right, so there's the ACLU fact check. Sorry, the ACLU questionnaire. Okay, so Trump's comments appear to refer to 2019 American. Oh, here I can put the ABC News thing in the chat as well if people want to follow along. I always start reading. All right, so the second one's the ABC News thing I'm reading from, and then in it is the link that I said right before. All right. Trump's comments appear to refer to a 2019 American Civil Liberties Union questionnaire filled out by then Senator Harris during her first presidential bid. The questionnaire asks, as president, will you use your executive authority to ensure that transgender and non-binary people who rely on the state for medical care, including those in prison and immigration detention, will have access to comprehensive treatment associated with gender transition, including all necessary surgical care? If yes, how will you do so? She responded, yes, adding that, quote, "It is important that transgender individuals who rely on the state for care receive the treatment they need, which includes access to treatment associated with gender transition," end quote. She noted that as the California State Attorney General, she backed the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation decision to provide gender transition surgery to state inmates. In 2015, while Harris was the Attorney General of California and the Transgender Law Center reached a historic settlement to move a transgender woman inmate to a women's correctional facility and provide her with the transgender medical care that had been deemed medically necessary by several medical and mental health clinicians, according to the settlement agreement. Oh, then they have a link to the settlement agreement. Oh, wow. Oh, they were thorough. All right, so here's the settlement agreement. So it seems like the fact check is verifying that these are positions she held and things that she did. So the case was hailed by LGBTQ activists who said it would impact incarcerated trans people nationwide. Harris's response to the NCO questionnaire continued, adding that she supported policies to allow federal inmates to obtain, quote, medically necessary care for gender transition, end quote, while incarcerated. Quote, I would direct all federal agencies responsible for providing essential medical care to deliver transition treatment, end quote, she wrote. The Harris Campaign Communications Director, Michael Tyler, told Fox News that the 2019 questionnaire is not what the vice president is proposing or part of her platform. It did not offer new details on where she currently stands on the issue. ABC News has reached out to the Harris Campaign for a comment.
Feeling good.
And then it moves on to compare Harris and Trump policies on gender affirming care. I can read that if people want to hear it.
Doing laundry.
Okay. That's right where I left off. Here we go. So the Harris Walls campaign has not officially released any policy proposals or promises concerning gender affirming care so far. However, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signed an executive order in May protecting and supporting access to gender affirming health care for LGBTQ people in the state. In his order, Walz notes that numerous medical organizations, including the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have said that access to gender affirming care is essential to the health and wellness of gender diverse people. Studies by researchers at Boston Children's Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, and published by the American Psychological Association have shown that gender affirming care can be life-saving for transgender and non-binary children and adolescents, promoting positive mental and physical health and well-being. The order came amid a wave of legislation from conservative lawmakers that has led to at least 26 states implementing policies that restrict gender affirming care for transgender youth. Supporters of trans care bans argue that children and their families should wait until they're older to make decisions about their gender and health. Biden-Harris administration has also signaled support for transgender Americans, reversing a Trump-era ban on transgender military service and revising Title IX to include protections for gender identity. In one statement to nonprofit news organization the 19th, the White House said that gender-affirming surgeries should be limited to adults, as is typically the case, but supports gender-affirming care for minors. Trump has said that he plans to ban taxpayer funding for sex change surgeries, which would include gender-affirming care for detainees, and bar schools from promoting gender transition. He also stated that he would reverse the Title IX revisions concerning gender identity. LGBTQ issues have been front and center on both national and state political arenas. More than 500 bills impacting the LGBTQ community have been considered in the U.S. this year, according to the ACLU. LGBTQ advocacy group GLAAD criticized the lack of attention to LGBTQ issues on the debate stage. Quote, the debate included only one mention of LGBTQ Americans and smearing and transgender people that went unchallenged, said GLAAD President and CEO Sarah K. Ellis in a statement. Quote, as Americans begin returning ballots and line up for early voting, reporters must remember that the next president of the United States will have a profound impact on the LGBTQ community and all marginalized people. We urge reporters to ask leaders in specific ways they will ensure we are always welcome and safe, end quote. All right, that's the end of that weird fact check. So, I mean, it just seems like it's true.
I wasn't saying it wasn't true.
Well, what's so crazy about it? I don't understand.
Like I said, I said it was the fact that he pancaked that claim on top of the Haitian thing. So I just thought it was all crazy to like start attacking her with these specific claims all at once. That's what I just was off put by. That's all.
But I thought you were off put by the fact that they were not true. When you said crazy, the implication was that they were crazy because they were wild claims that were unsubstantiated.
My point was like they are wild claims, but I was also saying that if they're gonna like the way they were framing it was that it's like a rampant problem. I said that before too, and in that specific case, she was talking about one person. You have the court case in you were just looking at the court case, but I don't think it's a crazy issue to like advocate.
She supports it as a policy.
But gender affirming care is not surgery. It's like not solely surgeries either. That's another thing.
But it includes surgeries. surgeries.
It includes surgery, yes. But but to act like it's solely
let's
surgery.
not play games with words. Like, she supported the policy broadly, not just for that one person.
Exactly. She supports it broadly.
So the point that I guess the Republicans, Trump included, were making was she's a wild leftist, like liberal, who's pretending to be moderate. That's what he was trying to argue on the debate stage. And he was citing things that she believes or supports that were wildly unpopular and that were kind of like typical of being, radical left progressive or whatever they want to call it. That's what he was trying to do. And it seems like, as far as substantiating the claim, she does support that position. And she did. Well, what was unclear is whether she supported this most recent election, to be fair to her, because she kind of wouldn't answer the question. But what was pretty clear was that she supported that shit with her whole ass chest in 2019. So, I mean, I don't know. It's easier to paint her that way because she literally did support it at one point. And she was really vague about whether her mind had changed. And also her running mate has supported it in his state of Minnesota as governor. So it was like,
said anything yet, and I mean, I'm
her saying, I will follow the laws, not really answering the question. Makes it seem like you support it, but you don't want to say it out loud because you don't say it popular. That's what I think.
Yeah. I agree with all that.
Please don't scroll.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The dogs and cats thing, that shit was weird because it was like partially true, but not all the way true. And it was exaggerated, but not necessarily like Trump. But Trump was like indictable because the fact that he said it at all maximized the reach of the exaggerators. So that shit was weird.
It was very good.
I couldn't get a straight up answer on what this shit happened. I did a lot of research trying to figure that shit out. It was like weird, like I'm still not sure exactly how true that is.
I'm sure it's happened, but that's what I'm saying. Like when you speak with such like fervor about a subject, like, and he doesn't necessarily have to say it's like it's happening all the time. It's happening. It doesn't have to. It's just like you're presenting something that's not really a problem. Like it's like and a terrible issue when it's like maybe an edge case, an anomaly. Like that's the issue I have with it. It's you're talking about something that really doesn't happen that often, and you're acting like the people in the city are in danger. Your pets are in danger. Like that's crazy, is it not?
I mean,
I could be thinking about.
I think I don't know about crazy, but I think that is deceptive and wrong to exaggerate.
Right, and that's how I feel about the way he brought up the transgender, the migrants getting transgender surgeries. That's the same thing he did with that statement. So that's why I'm like, this sucks, but it's like incredibly effective. Like I thought that was gonna like tank his whole thing, but then it just like, I mean, he wasn't like completely wrong. Like she couldn't really weasel out of that, you know. So, but yeah, I just thought it was a crazy thing to bring up on the debate stage, like because it honestly didn't really matter to me. Again, like that type of issue is 0.1% of the population, if that. So I just thought it was like a non-issue.
Do you think Kamala has a chance of winning in 2028?
Don't ask me that.
You're afraid of.
I don't think so.
Do you think Joe Biden would have won if he would have not stepped down?
Ooh. You know, I thought when he debated Donald Trump, I was like, God damn it, Joe! Like, wake the fuck up, you know. But then CNN has a panel of 13 people crying about this shit, and I'm like, what are y'all doing right now? Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, y'all are making it worse. So like like Joe Biden has like his flubs or whatever. Like he's had those his entire career. It's just the fact that he's old now that it amplifies it. He's done that. He was doing that when he was young. So I don't know. I feel like Joe Biden would have had a fighting chance to win. But like there were people on the left side that were like already voting for him, and then when they saw his debate performance, they were like, I can't in good conscience vote for him now. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Are y'all kidding me? So, I mean, anyways, I'm a moderate, so like I'll be fine either way.
Gary, can I say one more thing while you try to figure out something else? Is like, Satoshi Roundtable is an event that's coming up in a couple weeks.
Literally,
I've been going to them for a very long time. And
I hope
whenever we get together
all his claims. I hope he succeeds.
at Satoshi Roundtable,
Because
the
the fate of
topics
this
of like
country is in
price
his hands now.
and research.
Like
on
I
this
remember
company, this stuff just
specifically
never comes up. It's not even on
when
our radar.
he was touting the tariffs.
Just wanted to give people a heads up. Like this
I
is
just read
that's just,
some article that like
it's kind of a nothing burger when it comes to
it was
how people are
Arizona,
making decisions.
like
This is
all the places
fund
that
managers, large miners, people who've been in the industry for a long time. Even sovereigns now, and sometimes you get United States senators and other people come to these events. So it's not even talked about.
Yeah, Wayne, I was at an event in Montana.
Hey, Joe, you want to comment, Joe, about what China did with interest rates today? Did you see what they did?
Grant, did you not hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. And your segues didn't so bad, I thought I'd help you.
Yeah. Anyway, in this Montana thing, there was about 400 large companies there, and not one moment did anyone discuss price. They discussed what they're building for year 8 and 12, which was really impressive. I have never heard, and these are major, major players. That to me gets me more comfortable than all the analytical TA data. Go ahead, Grant, pop in there.
I think Grant was.
Go ahead, Joe.
Gary must have got a phone call.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I just said I think Grant was trying to ask about China's interest rate policy. Is that right, Grant?
Yes, I was, Joe. But Gary had to keep talking about something nonsensical.
Okay. So the news story is we've gotten more signal and statements coming out of the PBOC that they intend to consider the future rate cuts. Right? They're already low. I think they're, like I said many times, I think they're really struggling.
Under 1% right now.
Yeah, they're really struggling as an economy, and they're signaling even more stimulus and intervention. So to me, it's more the same. China's real rough shape, and if there is a risk on the horizon, I think you have to look outside of the United States, which Darkside and I, who's on the stage, we talk about this frequently. The risk to the downside comes ex-United States, comes outside, and where we tend to be too focused, too myopic on U.S.-based economy. If China goes into a deflationary spiral, that's not good, right? That can really cause problems for the entire world, and it can be something that the new administration is going to have to hit the ground running and dealing with, figuring out how to do that while simultaneously advocating for tariffs and other policies to protect U.S. manufacturing. If you put the pressure on places like China, you can trigger a cascade, a domino of economic I think wreckage across the world if they truly slip into some deflationary spiral.
Yeah, Joe.
So if their rates are below 1, Joe, why are we sitting at a 4.6?
So we've had a bunch of conversations about this. I'm going to start this off by stipulating that I think there are weak sections of the economy, right? Really weak sections, particularly low-end consumers. Gary and I were talking about that earlier. No dispute from me. Totally agree on that. I will say, though, if you look at the aggregate data, the aggregate economic data shows the economy running stronger than trend currently. We're running hot nominal growth. You've got
business conditions that have actually accelerated. Small business optimism has accelerated since I think the election, right? Because people expect Trump to be more pro-business. And because of some of those indicators, it's hard to make a case that we are cooling off in terms of our growth right now. I think there are some small pockets. There's always pockets you can look at, but the aggregate data, and particularly the top 25%, which does most of the consumption in the country, they're looking really strong. So the Fed's concerned. They're looking at lagging data. They're looking at mostly shelter data, owner's equivalent rent, which is notoriously laggy, and that still shows an inflation problem. It still shows the official government CPI, which we all know has issues, that is still running closer to 3 than it is 2. So Powell, when he came out, he said specifically that, listen, we got to be careful with future cuts. We think we're slightly above what he calls the neutral rate, which is, neither accommodative nor restrictive. He thinks basically interest rates are almost right where the neutral rate is. And in economic speak, that means that they have sort of a band where they say right here is not truly restrictive. He called it slightly restrictive, but not truly restrictive. So they're trying to thread the needle here between stamping out the last bit of inflation and not triggering some rapid rise in unemployment, which is why they cut to begin with, because over the summer, there are some indications like the SOM rule and other things that were showing that unemployment rate was rising, right? So they want to get out in front of it. So that's the answer. And now I left, right? Grant,
Joe, can you talk about
Sorry
the
about
chart you published a couple days ago where you were talking about your best case scenario for the 10-year, where it went down a little bit and then it shot up towards like 5 or 6%?
No, base case.
I'm sorry, base case, not best case.
Yeah. So my view is that if you see some of these inflationary pressure, here's Grant coming back in. So if you see some of these inflationary pressures subside, maybe you get some contraction of particularly the inflation you're seeing in housing because of exogenous events that shocks the market. If you see that, you can see a 10-year rollback, maybe under 4. Okay, and the way I look at it is you stay in the high 3s, low 4s for the foreseeable future until you get a growth acceleration again. Maybe that's triggered by the pro-growth policies of the Trump administration. Maybe it's triggered by another bout of stimulus to keep us out of a recession. Whatever it is, I expect going out the end of the decade, the 10-year to rise. I don't think it's going to look like it did the last 20 years. You can talk about debts, deficits, the market becoming increasingly concerned about those things. I know that people like Jeffrey Gundlach, the quote-unquote bond king, thinks that the biggest story we'll have in the 2028 presidential elections will be debts and deficits. I don't know if I totally believe that. But my point is, I think structurally you're going to run into a much higher baseline of the 10-year for the next 10 years. And that has profound implications for the real estate market, for investing in general. We don't, maybe that's beyond the scope of this space. We're supposed to be talking about Bitcoin, but to me, it's a very fascinating discussion because what we've seen is we saw for 30, 40 years, stair step down in rates until you got the 10-year at 0.3% during the pandemic. Will we see the exact stair step up, right? Nothing goes in a straight line, Wayne, as you know, but it can sort of level. It can go higher and keep, higher low, higher low, higher low in yields moving out.
Okay.
Hey, let's go to, is it Ayman Bad has their hand up? Come on up, man.
Let it go and still come.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to Paul.
I think, I hope you hear me well, guys. Can you?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to the point of the prices of the Bitcoin and why it's going to surge up to maybe 8,000 and or more. To be honest about that, and let me tell you why it is backed. It's that it's going to that point because it is backed by having that major BRICS nation who will most probably establish and announce their strategic Bitcoin reserve starting from since Trump administration proposal to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the United States has sparked like that need and demand for the Bitcoin, and I think this will add Bitcoin to the U.S. Treasury's balance. I think it would require considerable political willpower to get the approval. So by signaling what is possible around the strategic Bitcoin reserve for the U.S., it will help invite, and I'm speaking from global and international stand of viewpoint here. It will invite major nations to consider a similar move. I think it's getting more and more demand for the Bitcoin to reach that point of 181 or 185 to 400. Actually, there is some predictions that is talking about this. This optimism also is fueled by institutional adoption for the ETF inflows, and I believe that we will see more a continuous raising in the regarding to the prices of the Bitcoin specifically. Another part of my research about the next financial trends for 2025 brings MicroStrategy's performance, as in the forecast it's very optimistic. Stock price has significantly optimistic stock pricing since it's potentially gonna reach 950 bucks, backed by the aggressive adapt for buying and acquiring more Bitcoin. So I think this strategy is gonna outperform the Bitcoin ETFs by leveraging their financial engineering for crypto. I believe there are going to be we are going to see a lot of global economic conditions that will contribute to the Bitcoin performance, because it's tied to the macroeconomics factors such as inflation and interest rates. With more persistent inflation, we're seeing inflation that is not going down anytime soon, and that is not really.
Why do you think it's not going down anytime soon?
I'm speaking about the global economy, not about the U.S. economy, and that's why I'm expecting that it's not going anytime soon. Maybe it's going down a bit soon for United States because of the new policies that Trump might take towards the startups and the economy overall in the United States. But from a global standpoint, I'm not seeing it is going down anytime soon because of other countries' situations.
Well, just something to consider. China, we were just talking about this with my friend Grant here. China, if you believe their government statistics, shows inflation under 1% currently, annualized. They're in basically almost in deflation. They're worried about growth and slipping into recession. So China is one of the biggest countries in the world. So that's why I was wondering why you think, from a world perspective, why inflation's here to stay.
Exactly, and that also doesn't. I mean, collectively, if you measure, if you are evaluating China, United States, and Russia, for example, together, in front of or versus all the rest of the globe. It is not also gonna contribute that much to down the whole inflation case that we're seeing.
No, I
this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, thanks.
This is what I'm talking about.
I want to get Darkside in here for a second here. Thank for that comment.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Darkside?
Thanks, Joe, and Happy New Year, everybody. So yeah, look, for me, I'm gonna buy Bitcoin. I'm gonna hold it in self-custody. I'm not gonna trade it. Bitcoin is the hardest money that's ever been created. Bitcoin will demonetize gold. It's just a matter of time. Just as gold demonetized silver and silver demonetized seashells, right? This is just the way the world works. When a better hard money comes around, people adopt it. Now, when you combine that fact with where the world's at, right? This is Joe and I have this conversation all the time. I believe the world's in real trouble. And when I say the world, I mean the fiat money system, not just the U.S. fiat money system, but the world fiat money system. Infra just bumped me a piece that I found really interesting that said, look, in the last few days, the overnight lending rate versus the Fed overnight lending rate has blown out. Things are starting to kind of shudder. It's just a matter of time before something breaks. Whether that, as Gary and I have speculated, I think that break is going to come out of Europe. I think it's intentional. We also have a debt limit issue with the U.S. We have so many different issues facing the fiat system. $7 trillion to refinance this year. I mean, I can just rattle them off one after the next, right? Of the problems that the fiat money system is facing. And then on the other hand, you have Bitcoin, who is perfect hard money. So why would I want to even consider selling a Bitcoin for a fiat currency that could or could not collapse at any given time? I mean, certainly we're facing financial crises, the likes of which will blow away what we saw in 2008. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. So for me, I'm going to just do the smart thing. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to hold it in self-custody, and I'm just going to get rich.
Good stuff. Let's go to we'll go to Robert next, and then David, you're on deck. Let's get ready with something.
I mean, it's kind of hard to go after someone like that just said buy Bitcoin, hold forever, right? But no, in all seriousness, I wanted to bring it back to some of the combos earlier about peak and cycle, and then a little bit of talk about BlackRock, just because my partner for one of the companies I have actually works there, so I wanted to share some value that at least he's shared with me. And no, it's not.
Wait, did you get a copy, Robert? Did you get a copy of that secret report that gentleman was on stage telling us about earlier?
No, I did not. I have not
Speaking
seen
of that,
that.
Joe, we need the Bitcoin Tina. Where'd you get the data post? Please put that in the nest.
Go ahead, Robert. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. So to Gary's point earlier about kind of drawdowns and seeing where this thing can go, I'm kind of in the same camp of it hitting about 53K. That's kind of what I've charted, and backing that's on the 2-year moving average, and then the 5x multiplier of that. If you guys haven't seen that, look into Bitcoin.com is where you can go. But historically, cycles have been about 4 years. Everyone kind of knows that narrative, but each cycle has extended between 40 to 120 days out is kind of the range each cycle. So I do think, to Gary's point earlier, that this cycle will be extended. It will be a little bit longer, and we won't see as big of a peak. If you look at that chart, look into Bitcoin, the 5x multiplier prices it at about 234 grand at peak. So discounting that by 10, 20%, 180 to 220 is a pretty good range. And then seeing a drawdown from that is kind of what we're looking at with our allocations and our fund and trading that. So that's kind of in line with what you were saying earlier a little bit, Gary. So just wanted to show some flowers towards that. But the other side that I've kind of heard some wind on is most people that I know that have allocated kind of heavy to this space don't even really look at that 2-year moving average. They're really looking at just the overall market cap increase. So I know from a few content creators that have some pull, and then just in my personal network, most people have been looking at that range of 3 to 5 trillion being the range of where to take certain profits for at least the alt market, which is kind of what we're in right now. It's kind of been hovering between 3.1 to 3.8 in recent weeks. So I do think that hitting 5 to 6 trillion is a decent target for Bitcoin to hit its short-term peak. Now, that being said, the U.S. government adopting a federal reserve of this stuff will obviously change this cycle and change that target. But without the Bitcoin National Reserve, that's kind of what has been in talks with the conversations that I've had with people. But interestingly enough, if we circle back to the BlackRock convo, this one's not necessarily so much on a Bitcoin conversation, but if you guys don't know, Circle USDC is actually banked by BlackRock. So they earn 6 basis points on all reserves that are flowing through there. So I think the bigger kind of strategy that they're trying to do is just carve down any competitors. If you saw MiCA, the regulation in the EU, basically hit Tether, saying that they're not allowed in their markets anymore. I think that's a little bit more indicative of where they're trying to go, is cutting off certain rails. Now, taking down Tether isn't going to happen overnight, but I think them trying to bring their ecosystem and all their funds tokenized with an underlying asset of USDC, like their fund BUIDL, et cetera, is really where they're going. And that's what my partner and I have been kind of talking about. They're really looking to tokenize more assets with USDC as their underlying currency, so that way they have all assets under their funds, and they make money on the banking of all of that. So just kind of my 2 thoughts on Bitcoin. I do think it's going to hit that 230 to 220 kind of mark in short term. But whoever was talking about BlackRock earlier, that's what I've heard from my discussions, and he manages about 73 analysts over there. But again, BlackRock's big, so there's Bitcoin divisions, there's digital asset divisions, there's a bunch over there. But I find that interesting. I don't know, Gary, have you taken a look at that with MiCA and the regulations there that they're trying to crack down on Tether with?
Yeah, and I was actually, when you brought this up, thinking it would be awesome, Dark Side, to go through a scenario. If you and I were running the European Union, what would we do right now? That would be a really interesting space. If we
I can actually jump in and ask my question. It's right all those lines, if you guys don't mind.
Gary's talking, right? So.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
And then Robert, look, man, there's so many analysts out there predicting prices that have spent millions of dollars, 450, 250, 300. You know what I know? Nobody fucking knows.
Exactly.
What I do know is I know how many Bitcoin I have.
Well, hey, Gary.
And that makes me really happy. And it's going to show up, whether it's this month, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, this will play out. I mean, we have 15 years of history. Even if you were drawing up a white paper today, this would be a good play. It's the only fucking tool in the toolbox that has any chance of surviving. Personally, I mean, I can't see anything else, Joe, that protects me and my family from chaos.
I agree, of course, but I want to follow up with some of your question for Robert, because I'm sure he speaks to a lot of individuals, some of whom are probably similar to who I talk to, and I'm curious from your take, Robert, among the fund managers you talk to, are you seeing more of a trend towards funds wanting to buy and hold and just have this as a core portion of their portfolio, or are you seeing more funds interested, from your perspective, in trading the cycles? Looking at, I mean, you referenced the fact they're looking at market caps for like times that quote unquote take profits, right? Like, is it still viewed institutionally as a trading vehicle, right? Where you get in and you out, you reposition, you rebalance, and take profits, or is it just more of a long-term model for the people you're talking to?
So Bitcoin is obviously the long-term model, mostly because now you got public equities sweeping cash into their Bitcoin strategy. Now, Some of those are just lifeboat retail strategies, trying to figure out what they're doing with their company to secure a little bit of future with this Bitcoin run, while others kind of just look at it more of a balance sheet asset. But from the people that I've spoken to, the ones that are a little bit more in the ecosystems of Solana, the ecosystems of aggregators for DeFi type of applications. For those that may not know, DeFi has a lot of fragmentation and volume of where they can actually fill orders. So there's platforms and tokens that are trying to help facilitate some of the liquidity there. So for those types of ecosystems was where they play, and they look at solely taking profits in a market cap swing. They could care relatively less about the price of a certain project. It's all about how much market cap it's swinging up. So to answer your question, and the alternative side, and even kind of the stuff that I look at in my personal portfolios and what my partner John and I are doing, it's taking profits in the ones that are in these ecosystems that are solely market cap plays, whereas the ones that are a little bit more institutional, I don't want to shill a project or name drop it, but ones that are a little bit more backed and have partnerships with institutions, those are the ones that they're holding more long term, whereas other ones that are simply just catching an arbitrage and filling a need in the ecosystem, those are the ones that they're selling.
Thank you. Let's go to David. I think, David, you're next.
Hey, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I just first want to wish everybody a belated Merry Christmas. That's on the stage. I haven't seen a lot of you guys in a while, so good to see you guys. Gary, Grant, Joe, you as well. Dark, I know I saw you, a few guys. Also, New Year's, man. New Year's is coming up, so excited for that. Want to wish you guys a early Happy New Year. I always want to thank Gary Cardone, because Gary is the one I started listening to about 18 months ago and started buying Bitcoin. So that's been a huge blessing for me and for my family. Started buying it at 33,000. So thank you for that. I'm kind of in the same boat as the guy that was speaking earlier, saying that I never sell my Bitcoin. I just hold on to it and don't sell it. So I kind of like that philosophy. But the thing that I'm struggling with a little bit, and you guys can tell me if I'm just crazy. I've been I started buying Bitcoin, as I said, 18 months ago, and in 17 I bought some XRP just because somebody told me to buy it. I lost the wallet, so I really haven't paid that much attention. And I had some ETH and stuff, but I've been through a cycle now where I've seen it go up and I've seen it go down, and I've done some research on going back, the trajectory, the history of it. But it just seems like it's different now. That to me, it seems like things are a lot different. With Trump's cabinet coming in, with the reserve, with the ETF, with BlackRock, right? With all these things going on, with U.S. wanting to be the world, lead the world in everything going on. I feel like it's hard. Like I can't. It just seems like it doesn't make sense that it would go down like 60 or 80%. Do you guys still think that's a possibility, or am I? Or I think Gary just said? I don't think any of does anybody nobody really knows. But am I crazy to think like, wow, it just seems so different now? That how could we draw back that much?
Anyone mind about how Bitcoin?
Yeah, go ahead.
I raised my hand earlier, so I just wanted to bring up the carpet guy. I don't know who that was, but not to disrespect anybody, but if you have Cock Investor in your profile, you're probably not a good source of information for TA or any price predictions. So just had to say that. But anyway, as far as like the price going 60, 70% to the downside, I think macro plays a huge part in it. It is possible, and I think human psychology doesn't change regardless of how established it is, although having institutional buyers eating at the dip is obviously beneficial to price recovery on dips. So, if you look at TA, the spot where a lot of people tend to sell, long-term holders, which would be just 6 to 12 months, a very popular spot for them to sell is at that 3x mark. So once they're about 200% up, that's where a lot of people tend to take some healthy profits, because not everybody has the conviction or understands Bitcoin the same way. Also, I would recommend to anyone in here to read Lynn Alden's book that I think she came out with it earlier this year. Broken Money, yeah. So I just finished that book, and that gives you a really good understanding of the hardness of Bitcoin and how it.
What was your biggest takeaway from Broken Money? What was the takeaway in 10 seconds?
Takeaway from Broken Money is that Bitcoin has essentially brought us into a new digital age of money and scarcity. 10 seconds wasn't that. I would need a little more than 10 seconds on this.
Joe, let's hear from Paul. He's bounced in and out. I always like Paul's viewpoint on the world, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Paul.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's like Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody's excited about the upcoming 25. I know I am. One thing that I have been trying to kind of put together this idea for the last few months, just bouncing in and out of spaces. And the macro idea that I'm kind of coming up with is I don't see a world where it's business as usual. I see too many things coming together in this timeline. It's like that, the story that came out with NYDIG, they want to get into the lending game. And I think the lenders that are going to come out in 25, the interest rates are just going to keep coming down. I don't think you're going to have the amount of selling pressure on Bitcoin that's historically been in these cycles. I think when, let's say you want to, borrow $400,000 or $500,000 for lifestyle chips, and your payment would have been, $5,000, $6,000 a month or something at these exorbitant rates, the 13, 14, 15%. But you start getting these things down to, some smaller rates, 5, 6, 7s, and, the competition speeds up. But people are like, well, maybe I'll just float, $1,500 a month until the next cycle, and they don't decide to get rid of their chips. And the buying pressure is just so immense that, if you're coming in daily and the pressure is just in the millions, I just do not see this kind of world where everybody thinks that they can pick the tops, pick the bottoms, pick the charts. And I think Saylor's analogy of when Godzilla shows up, all your models are broken. And I just think the people at the charts are going to be left stunned on the sidelines, stunned, because I don't think we've ever had an asset that's, with pure scarcity that we don't quite understand.
So listen, Paul, I agree with you largely. I will say one thing. As Bitcoin becomes more institutionalized, like all assets, it's going to respond to macro and liquidity concerns. So the big caveat in all this is that if there is a significant recession or some sort of unforeseen economic event, it's going to sack all asset prices, stocks, real estate, Bitcoin, etc. And on the other side of that, right, we know what the policymakers will do. They will do whatever is necessary to keep the engine running, including massive stimulus. So from my perspective, I largely agree with you, but I think it should be in everyone's mental model that as Bitcoin becomes more institutionalized, it's going to behave like institutionalized assets. I don't know why that's confusing for folks, but I'm open to people disagreeing with me on it, but I don't really see the argument to the contrary. And we're already seeing this. I mean, it's not a coincidence Bitcoin's down today, and we talked about this earlier. The NASDAQ and the S&P 500 were also down as well.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I just one other thing. Sorry there. One thing that I'm curious about, though, is if it starts behaving like an asset that, in this traditional model, then how is it that something that was designed to be somewhat of an antithesis to this model, not in the control, not in the 9 to 5, that it doesn't end up being some form of this exit ramp to the traditional model. Does it ever break from the traditional model, or your thesis is that it folds into traditional asset and it will become the traditional asset, or does it break off and build this new model that we've never seen, this Godzilla, if you will, that it's like, we don't know what the hell this is, and we're going to have to just wait and see what this thing builds?
I think it's the latter. We're going to have to wait and see what it builds. I'll let Darkside get in, but I'll just tell you my perspective. What you're envisioning when it can, quote unquote, decouple, or these narratives and these things we talk about frequently, that comes at a market cap, I think that's at a minimum 10 to 20x where it is right now. It needs to get substantially bigger. But there are individual stocks, right, that have market caps what Bitcoin has. So it has to get, the global bond market, hundreds of trillions of dollars. I mean, you have to get this thing massively bigger to be able to uncouple or decouple rather from traditional finance. And if big players and big positions are taking a hit, right, they sell everything. They're not discriminate. They sell Bitcoin alongside the NASDAQ. So I think it's one of those questions where nothing in the white paper talks about the Bitcoin price. Right, nothing about you talking about it was originally designed for. It was designed to function peer-to-peer, to not have to rely on trust of others. There's nothing about the original design of Bitcoin, nothing about the original discussions of Bitcoin that said it had to correspond or not correlate with price action in traditional finance. What it was talking about is trying to how to remove third-party, brokers and third-party intermediaries. That's what it was about. And it designs perfect. It designs fantastic in that effect. But anyway, go ahead, Dark.
Yeah, so I just point out there's two ways to get into recession/depression, right? One is through deflation, and the other is through inflation, right? So if we have, as I expect will happen, some type of global currency crisis, we go into recession/depression with too much money, with money flowing around the system, right? And dollars being repatriated. It's my take, going back to what Gary touched on earlier, it's my take that Trump doesn't give a rat's ass about the ECB, the EU, the UN, Bank of International Settlements, the Fed, and any other globalist institution, right? And I'm not sure what it looks like when he comes in and goes scorched earth on these institutions that he views as being anti-American. Right? That's where my head's at. And I'll just remind everybody, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, right? This constant desire to value Bitcoin in terms of dollars only works until it stops working, right? At some point, who cares about dollars, right? I want Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a much better form of collateral than dollars, and I'll argue that point with anybody. So for my 2 cents, man, I see a war of globalist institutions against American institutions. When you talk about Circle and Mika and Tether, well, Tether's owned by a cabinet member. Took 5% stake. They're going to onshore Tether, and they're going to blow it up. I don't think USDC stands a chance against Tether. But that's just the way I view the world, right? I think people are going to be shocked at what happens in this first 100 days. Absolutely shocked. And I think it's going to change the world and the way we look at it forever.
Yeah, let me just piggyback on that really quick, Darkside. Yeah, have been watching these guys pretty closely. I don't have anything else to do. And I've said this before in one of your spaces, Gary, and no disrespect to Joe. I actually really respect Joe and what he has to say. But I think that a lot of the talk today in the prior space and this space has been very linear, like the normal progression of how things would progress in a linear fashion and not any sort of an exponential fashion. And I think human minds think linearly, and it's hard to kind of view things in an exponential fashion. But just like Darkside is saying here, I think these guys are coming in scorched earth, And what I'm looking at is that the way these guys are tweeting and retweeting Ron Paul, the way these guys are overtly talking about ending the Fed, like I think these guys are going to nuke the size of the federal government to be pre-1913 levels. And I didn't get to get in the space earlier to argue my point with this, but I think it's just going to happen. I think they're going to go fast and furious, and that they're not going to give the courts time to even respond. They're going to nuke the thing down to pre-1913 levels. And that's kind of step one. Step two is you push the world onto a Bitcoin standard. And this happens through game theory of nation state adoption. And Joe, you kept making the point earlier that, these guys per the law, they have to fund, keep funding the Department of Education or whatever per the law. But if the world nukes the dollar standard and it goes to a Bitcoin standard, you cannot afford it anymore, and they lose the power of the printing press. And so that's how you do all this by executive order. You go fast and furious, and then you convert the world to a Bitcoin standard, and the world is now constrained by hard money. And there's the power of the printing press loses its teeth, loses its power, and you literally can't afford to do it anymore. And
can you accomplish something of that scale without causing a global depression?
Yeah, Taylor. Do you think that is likely the path that Donald Trump takes?
I do, because I think that you guys are all underestimating Elon Musk. That guy is a meme guy. He lives his whole life by these memes. They introduced this Department of Government Efficiency with an end date of the 4th of July, 2026, which is the 250th anniversary of American independence. That's the end of the Doge. So I think they're doing all this before then. And then they're going to declare American independence once again from all of these globalist, anti-American institutions, like Darkside said. And the only way to truly constrain it and not just have the next Democratic president come in and bring it all back, like you were saying earlier, is to trigger trade settlement worldwide between Russia, China, US, Brazil, everyone in Bitcoin. And no one's going to want the crappy dollars anymore. Everyone just wants Bitcoin.
Tyler, let me add on to what you said, right? You heard that echo, I think, multiple responses, and that's going to cause a global depression. Absolutely it is, right? And that's what you do in the first year of your term, and then you recover from that into a world without war, a world with hard money, a world with global trade, a world that's so much better than what we have today. So if I'm on the Trump team, you're absolutely damn straight we're going into a global depression.
Both Vivek and Elon have said that we need to have the will to go through the short-term pain of what it's going to take. And that's exactly what they're
Donald
talking
Trump
about.
also tweet out something about the Democrats willing to cause the depression in 1929 or something?
Yeah, they'll blame it on the Democrats politically, for sure.
Yeah, but we got to do it.
Yeah, see, I would like to say, go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, that's what we need to do. We need to let's take the pain, let's get it over with, and then let's move forward with a hard money system. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, the guy, the smackhead that came in earlier talking about the March top, I think we have, this Bitcoin is just so amazing how many opportunities we get at this Apple. I mean, they're going to let me front run this for another year and a half probably. However, I agree with what the gentleman just said that was speaking. They have to hit this very, very hard, very fast. We should know January 21. I think you're going to see a monster bull market that week, because I think you're going to see a massive number of announcements about what they're doing. And look, they have to be draconian about this. Just from a defensive posture, you have to be. But think about, you have a lot of technology guys there going, hey, if we're going to make sweeping changes, we have to make them for a technology world, not just get rid of some people, but you literally start building for the future. And that You don't have 4 years to do it. You got to do it right now. So to me, dude, by February, I see February 1, I see Bitcoin should be responding extremely well. And to his other point, game theory is in play. It's full on play. I don't know what you could do to be more catalytic than have game theory on at every level of the world. Anybody disagree with that? Just don't know what other triggers need to be pressed.
Yeah, and if you want to go a little further into conspiracy theory world, just slightly, and I know you're adverse to this, Joe, so just humor me for a second. But
I love a good conspiracy. Go ahead.
Well, I know, but I know you tend to twitch a little bit. But if you want to go,
usually he twitches at stupidity.
Well, I hope this isn't too stupid. I don't know.
He has a big twitch on stupidity, but I have seen him get a little racist and biased in opinion sometimes. But it's just a food thing, probably.
Yeah. Okay. But this is, if you want to go a little step further, if you start to believe the rhetoric about the globalists, kind of wade into the Alex Jones world, and you have this whole new world order, the World Economic Forum, communist takeover of the world, basically.